ChatGPT, a chatbot by OpenAI that is said to be changing the world, being talked about all over. And whenever there's new technology, I start getting asked the questions, do we need a policy on this? As employers, do we need to worry about this? So in this video, I'm going to tell all. Hello, my name is Jennifer. I'm the founder of Silk Helix, and we help small businesses with all things employment law, HR, and people management. So I'm looking at ChatGPT. It's new technology. So I'm sure I'm going to do more videos on this. I'm sure this is going to be something that's going to evolve and develop. Hit subscribe to make sure that you keep up to date with those. But my thoughts on using it right now is that there are a few things employers should think about and be concerned about. But no, I'm not going out right now and writing policies about it. I don't see the need to. I think it's all covered by other policies at the moment. But I reserve the right to change my mind on that as the technology evolves. So I've been doing some experimenting with it. I've tried it myself and it's good technology. I like it. I like the fact that I can put a request into it, a very human request, almost like I would do to one of my team, to say, write a blog on and give it a title, and it will come back with an answer. Sometimes those answers are good. Sometimes those answers are not so good. The blogs I've tried on it, if I was to take purely the blog that ChatGPT had produced, put it on my website, in my blog, you would know instantly that that's not mine. And that, I think, is the end to saying this is the answer at the moment to all things, and that this is going to take away jobs and it's going to do all the work for us. That said, it has provided me with some really, really good help. So when I've asked it to write a blog, I did one of my latest ones with it. I put the blog title in and asked it to come up with a blog. It came up with about 400 words. I then took that, and the blog as it's ended up on my website is about 1,000 words, because I was able to add experience, I was able to add stories, I was able to add knowledge, I was able to really pad out and fill in what ChatGPT was missing. But what it did do for me was get me over that hurdle from title to where do I start? How do I write this? And for me, that's kind of one of that challenging bits of kind of writing that first sentence. So once the first sentence was there, I could then go back, edit it, add to it and change it, and it did shorten the time that I think I would have normally taken to write that blog. So I think it's a really useful tool. I've used it for emails and things as well. I've asked it to write an email on a certain topic, and again, I've then adapted it. If somebody is using ChatGPT to do their job for them, I think you'd know right now. I think you'd know straight away. And as a brand, you don't want your brand to be associated with plagiarism, for example. We all know that human voice and things is what people are looking for in brands. So you would know if somebody was doing that, you'd spot it a mile off, I think, and you would be able to deal with that. But in terms of using it for a productivity tool to help give us answers to things, to help speed us along a process, I don't see that there's, at the moment, a problem with that at all. I think it's a useful tool. Now, I'm going to give some caveats to that. I did put into ChatGPT, write a UK compliant employment contract. It produced something that looked like an employment contract. It was not legally compliant. It did not contain all the things that a statement of particulars should contain. If you want to find out what that actually is, I'll put a link to the video in the description. But it did not contain all of those things. As somebody who knows the topic and know, I could look at that instantly and say, that's not legally compliant. It hasn't done what I asked it to do. And anyway, even if you've got something legally compliant, it's not going to know the nuances of your business. It's not going to understand context. It's not going to be able to apply all of those things. But I could instantly look at that from even a basic starting point and say, that's not good enough. Somebody who's not got that expertise is unlikely to recognise that, may not notice the things that are missing from that contract. And you'll probably find, type in your expertise to it and you'll find the same. And I guess that's what happened with the blog post it wrote. It wrote 400 words and I could go, well, yeah, but you've missed out all of these things, this context, these bits. And I could add them in because I've got those expertise. So I think as a starting point, it's useful. I can see where the technology is going to grow. I can see benefits in the technology, but I think at the moment, it's not going to suddenly replace jobs. And ultimately, technology has been replacing jobs right back to the tractor, and we develop new jobs and we develop new ways of doing things. And the more efficient we are, if I can write blog posts in half the time, I can then go off and do something else with that time. So there's benefits on that side as well. Where I do have concerns around ChatGPT and any other kind of algorithm-based technology, and it includes a lot of the technology that often gets used in HR, is bias within algorithms. Now, this is not my expertise. Go watch videos by Hannah Fry, and again, I'll link one in the description because she's the expert on this. She knows what she's talking about and talks about it really well. But fundamentally, anything that's an algorithm, just because it's an algorithm, because it's a computer, don't assume it doesn't have biases within it. Those computers are still programmed by humans. There is still room for error and bias, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to be aware of where those biases might be so that we can overcome them. And clearly we've got discrimination legislation that we have to be aware of as employers, but wider than that, diverse workforces, we've known for a long time, the research is there, that businesses with diverse workforces do better on the bottom line, and therefore anything that puts biases into a system that might impact our diverse workforces are going to have a negative effect. And I think that's something that we really need to be thinking about and looking at the language that ChatGPT is coming out with and making sure that we adapt that. I've got a blog on language in job adverts and how subtle use of language can either repel or attract women to apply for roles, for example. Again, I'll put a link to that in the description as well, because I think it's really useful to understand the potential impacts of these things and what we need to be thinking about if we're using this technology. So as employers, I don't think right now that you really need to be thinking about things like policies or overly thinking about what you're going to be doing with this. I do think it's worth looking at how it can be used in your business. I think as with all technology advances, looking at how we can benefit from them is great. Watch this space though, because if I do change my advice on that, if I do see something that makes me think, no, actually employers need to do more to protect themselves, I will be making a video on it. So do subscribe to the channel to keep up to date.